Hey guys, sorry for the issues with the live stream. Unfortunately, my usual live stream streaming service is not working right now. So I had to jump onto a new one right now. So hopefully you guys will be able to find this link. I'm so sorry. But anyway, today we're going to be going over how you can build muscle or tone up with intermittent fasting. It's a big question I get all the time. And again, so sorry you guys for the actual live stream not working with the one that was originally scheduled. There seems to be some like technical issues with the live streaming service that I usually use. So straight onto YouTube right now. So unfortunately, I won't be able to actually share my screen the way I usually do, but I will have so much information that you guys can take down. So make sure you're taking notes because we're going to be covering all the details on how you can actually build muscle or tone up using intermittent fasting, because there are specific strategies that you need to be doing if you are looking to achieve an athletic goal or some type of fitness goal with intermittent fasting. So we are going to be going over each of those three really important aspects. So if you guys are just joining in for the first time, my name's Autumn. I'm a certified clinical nutritionist with my master's nutrition human performance. I'm also a certified personal trainer. So this specific topic is something that I particularly love to talk about because I love intermittent fasting and I love exercise and what you can achieve with both. So if you guys are just tuning in, this is the week 2 of the fall intermittent fasting challenge. So usually I'll have the details down in the description below. I'll have that after the live stream if you guys still want to join in. But today we're going to be going over how you can actually build muscle or tone up with intermittent fasting. So the reason, first we need to understand why it is that intermittent fasting can actually work with achieving some type of fitness goal as well. So the big reason why intermittent fasting can be such a great tool is because you're actually naturally increasing your growth hormone. So growth hormone, when you're in that fasted state, growth hormone is the hormone that causes your body to help preserve muscle mass and help to actually tap into fat burning at the same time. So it's that body recomposition that we're looking for, where you're able to burn fat while not losing or even gaining muscle. So there's even some perks of how intermittent fasting has been found to help boost testosterone as well, which is also really linked to that increased muscle growth for a building muscle goal or a toning goal. On top of that, intermittent fasting also helps to naturally lower insulin levels, which is really important for making sure that you're actually able to tap into fat burning. So this is a key thing you'll see that's different about intermittent fasting compared to typical calorie restricted protocols, is that it does help to keep insulin lower. So it helps the body to tap into fat burning better without being in that state of semi-starvation. So all of this to be combined to know that you can achieve a fitness goal with intermittent fasting. You can build muscle, you can tone up, you can have an endurance goal, which I have a previous video on as well. Today, we're talking specifically on building muscle, whether that be having a big building muscle goal, like if you want to be Arnold, versus if you just want to have a little bit of a muscle goal of increasing the toning of the body. So all of that can be done with intermittent fasting. You just need to make sure you follow these next steps that we're going to be going over today. So good morning, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I see a bunch of people already in the chat. Again, sorry, you guys, for the confusion with the live stream. Unfortunately, my usual live stream service crashed, so I had to switch gears onto this one. I'm never late, and I was like 5 minutes late today, and that's just the worst thing for me. I hate being late. All right. So the first thing that's really important that you guys need to make sure you're doing when you're looking to achieve a muscle gain or toning goal, regardless of how much muscle gain you're looking for, whether it be more on just that toning side, like if you're doing Pilates, yoga, etc., or again, if you want to be Arnold, the biggest thing that we need to make sure that you're doing is getting in your protein, because with exercise, if you aren't getting enough protein, you're just breaking down your muscle and you're not actually providing the fuel and the building blocks to rebuild it. So you do need to make sure that you are getting adequate amounts of protein. So this is really important for that body recomposition. Protein is the most important nutrient when it comes to achieving a body recomposition goal, where you're building muscle, but you're not losing, but you are losing fat, or you're not losing muscle rather. So then a good thing to keep in mind with protein, this is something that we've talked about here and there, but we haven't really dived too much into detail about. I'm really wishing I had my visuals here, because I had a lot of great studies to link out for you guys. But in the world of nutrition, some of the biggest areas that are studied is protein, because it is going to be directly related to athletes. And that's where a lot of like the quote money, if we're talking about how things direct studies, that's where a lot of the money will go into, is athletes and athletic performance. So protein is so important for achieving those athletic goals that a lot of money has been channeled into there, which means a lot of studies have also come out. And there's a few things that they found when it comes to achieving a fitness goal in terms of protein. First of all, the amount really matters, which we already know, and we'll talk about more as well today, but also the type of protein really matters if your goal is to gain muscle mass. So there's a key, of course, we already know that we need complete protein. That's a given. You need to have all the essential amino acids, but there's even one amino acid that trumps all of them. So you need to make sure you especially are getting proteins rich in this one amino acid, and it's called leucine. This is Leucine. If anyone wants to look that up, leucine. It's the one that has been found to promote muscle creation on its own, which no other amino acid can do that. So it is extremely important. That's kind of the limiting factor when it comes to how much your body can actually use that protein to build muscle. So again, even if you're looking for just a small muscle growth goal of that quote toning goal, or if you're looking to be Arnold, you need to be considering leucine as well and the amounts of leucine you're getting. So those proteins that are going to be the most rich in leucine, we can list them in order of highest to lowest. And in terms of complete proteins, the highest ones are going to be dairy-based proteins. So if you're looking at like halloumi, Greek yogurt, whey protein powders, all of those are going to be some of the most rich in leucine, which is why I also love using Greek yogurt in my smoothies. You guys have seen me make these all the time. I love using Greek yogurt. It adds a ton of flavor. You get a ton of other nutrients like vitamin K2, especially if it's grass-fed. You get high-quality fats, but you also get a really rich source of leucine to promote muscle synthesis or muscle growth. So the dairy-based proteins are some of the best when it comes to muscle growth. Of course, cheese is another one. Another really great one, eggs. Eggs is actually one that most proteins, when they're actually studied in the field of sports nutrition, are going to be compared to eggs, because eggs have the highest digestibility. It's so easy to break down and use as a protein source. And it's also relatively very high in leucine. The next most rich ones will be any of those animal-based proteins. So fish, lamb, beef, chicken, whatever it is that you enjoy, those are going to be the next most rich in leucine. And then we get into the world of the more plant-based proteins. So you can use soy if you are purely plant-based. I generally recommend going for a fermented soy just to make sure that you break down some of those anti-nutrients first. But you can use plant-based options. It just is important to know that it is about 85% lower in the essential amino acids. And those are the ones that are needed in order to promote muscle synthesis. So you can use it. You just might need a little bit more, or you might need to even supplement with branched chain amino acids to get that up. So the soy-based ones are an option. Hemp seeds are also an option. It is a complete protein, although it's much higher in fat. So you'll probably want to, again, compensate with maybe a protein powder in there. And then, of course, the protein powders from a plant-based source as well. So those are some of the better options when it comes to complete protein sources, from best to just lowest in leucine. Because remember, leucine, this is something that we have not talked a huge amount at all about, but leucine is that really important amino acid that's needed to promote muscle synthesis or muscle growth. So if you are looking to achieve a muscle growth goal, whether it be toning or you want to be Arnold, when it comes to intermittent fasting, you need to be making sure that you're eating the right type and the right amount of protein within your eating window. So those most rich in leucine, and also that you're actually getting enough of them. So this comes now full circle to how much protein you need to be getting in. I've done a whole video on this. You guys know that. I did have it linked in the previous live stream, but unfortunately that went kaput. So when that actually comes back up, maybe I'll do this live stream again with the actual details for the next challenge. But I do have a video on how to calculate your protein needs. It's also in the complete intermittent fasting bundle. So those of you guys who are following the fall intermittent fasting challenge, you have all those details within your intermittent fasting programs, which also link below if you guys are interested in joining in the challenge. But if you are having a more athletic goal, so we always talk about having between 1.2 to 1.6 grams per kilogram for of protein, grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. This is all in on how to step-by-step actually calculate your protein needs in that 1 3-minute video I have. You can just search Autumn Bates, how to calculate protein needs, and it'll come right up. But that is the general goal of what we're looking at. But if you're an athlete, if you're someone who's looking to achieve a more muscle building goal, you have higher needs. You have higher protein needs than if you were sedentary, because your body is putting more demands on your muscles. You're breaking down your muscles, which means you need more to repair it. And that's where protein comes in. So if you are looking for more of that strength or muscle building or toning goal, this is where it's going to be more in that 1.4 to 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. So you can make sure you are getting enough. If you're like an extreme athlete, really looking to be Arnold, then you likely will need even more than that. But for the vast majority of people, even the vast majority of athletes, you can stick between 1.4 to 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, as long as it is coming from those high leucine sources that we just talked about. So I'm going to see if there's any questions, which, by the way, guys, if you have questions, make sure to throw them in the chat, put in a couple question marks so I can make sure to find them as well. We have Jeanette. Good morning, Autumn. Jeanette from sunny Florida. All right. Kate says, what if you don't do dairy? There are plenty of other higher leucine options. So like I mentioned, eggs are a really great option. Animal-based proteins are really great options. Protein powder is really great. You have a lot of different options. Just scroll back or rewind a little bit. I went over all the different higher leucine options. So Susie is asking, how much of your daily protein should come from complete proteins? That's a good question. So this is a pretty complex topic, but ideally you want almost all of your proteins coming from complete protein sources so that your body can actually use them. Because the thing about a complete protein, all it means is that it contains the essential amino acids. And what essential means is that your body can't create it, so you have to eat it. Your body can create other amino acids, the non-essential amino acids, those that are not complete proteins. Your body can actually create those. So your body's missing out on quite a bit if you are not getting complete protein sources with those essential amino acids. So I would always aim, especially because I see most people are just under consuming high quality proteins anyway. I would always aim to have your all of your protein sources coming from complete protein sources, because inherently you're going to be getting those non-essential amino acids with a complete protein source as well, but you're also getting in those essential amino acids at the same time. Great questions. So Hanara is asking, hi, Autumn, I have really bad bones and can't work out. Can I still build muscles without workout? Thank you. So you do need some type of stimulus, which is something we're going to be going over in just a bit as well. We're just on the first main step here when it comes to achieving a muscle growth goal, where we're talking about protein. There's still those two other steps. I'll be getting into that in a little bit, but short answer is you do need that stimulus along with the protein. You can't just eat protein and expect to build muscle. Otherwise, there would be a lot of really happy people who don't have to work out and can just eat as much protein as they want and build on the muscle mass. It does require both of those. You do need to have the protein as well as the stimulus from exercise. All right. And that can be a ton of different types of exercise. So if you do have injuries that are limiting for you or that are limiting you from achieving those goals, you can do something like in the pool. It doesn't necessarily have to be the traditional body weight or calisthenics or whatever it is that you're used to seeing, high intensity interval training. You don't have to do that to achieve a muscle growth goal. You could do something that is going to be easier on your joints in a pool. You could do yoga. There's a lot of other different great options that you can help tailor to where your body's at right now. So Arena is asking, so the collagen won't replace essential amino acid sources like chicken or eggs, etc. Right. So collagen is a great add-on. It's not a complete protein source. It has some really great amino acids in it, but view it more as an add-on or a supplement to your actual main protein needs. All right. So which by the way, question for you guys, what are some of your favorite protein sources? Mine personally, just let me know in the chat, or if you're watching this after the live stream, let me know in the comments. I really love Greek yogurt, especially for my first meal. I'll also use usually a whey-based protein powder if I'm not using Greek yogurt. And then at lunch, some of my favorites are going to be eggs because they're so fast and easy. And since I do work from home, I can cook them up pretty quickly. Dinner is generally where I'm having more of an animal-based protein, but what are your guys' favorites? Let me know in the chat. And what are some of your favorite complete protein sources? Okay. So the second thing to consider when it comes to gaining muscle mass, when you are using an intermittent fasting routine or an intermittent fasting protocol, is your actual intermittent fasting schedule. So now we get into those nitty-gritty details, but I wanted to start off with protein first because this will help to make the second step a lot easier to understand. Because this is where things can get a little tricky when it comes to achieving a muscle mass building goal. It's not necessarily the fasting period that's a problem. It's making sure that you're actually getting enough of the protein you need from step one to help you build that muscle during your eating window. So protein is highly satiating. It's very difficult to, quote, overeat on it. In fact, they've even done overeating studies where they tried to get people to eat as much as they physically could of any type of animal-based protein source, found that it was nearly impossible to physically overeat on animal-based proteins. And it's because it is, or complete proteins rather, it is because it is so highly satiating. Proteins help to have the body release the satiety hormone peptide YY. And that hormonal signal is so strong that it can make us stop eating before what our actual protein needs are for that day if you have too small of a window. So this is where for athletes or those who are exercising more and really looking to build muscle mass, I usually recommend having a shorter fasting period and a slightly wider eating window. So this can be anywhere between 12 to 16 hours of fasting. If you are really truly looking to build muscle, I rarely recommend going beyond 16 hours of fasting, purely because to get all of that protein in during smaller than an 8-hour eating window can be very difficult. Not impossible. There are some people who do it. However, for the vast majority of people, with the over 12,000 AM peeps that are in the Facebook group, with the hundreds of people I meet with one-on-one around the world, I've very rarely seen a shorter eating window than that work for achieving a body recomposition of building muscle mass goal. Especially if you're really looking to build a lot more muscle and you need to have even more protein, having that slightly wider eating window will be really important to make sure you actually get all of that protein in. So 12 to 16 hours, depending on your goal. If you do require a lot more protein, this is where you'll want to have more of that 12 to 14 hours. If you are more of that toning goal where you don't necessarily need to crank up the protein too high, you can have about that 16-hour mark. So this is to make sure that you are getting all that protein in with the fasting period to be considered so that you aren't losing muscle. Because if you are doing that exercise, but you're not getting enough protein, then your body will break down. That's what it's doing during the exercise. It is physically tearing down your muscle, but you won't get enough of those tools or those sources of amino acids to actually then repair those muscles. So you'll be breaking it down, but you won't be building it back up. And that's the exact opposite of what you're looking to achieve when you are looking to build muscle. So I'm going to see if there's any questions in here right now. Yep. So Julissa says halloumi is her favorite. Oh my gosh, halloumi is amazing. If you guys haven't tried that, definitely try it out. If you guys have the 6-week summer limited release meal plan I did this last summer, I have that grilled halloumi salad. It's amazing. But yeah, halloumi is a great dairy-based source, vegetarian-based source of protein. Dana says chicken and eggs. Absolutely. Tech author is asking, sorry to be a bit late to the party. Sorry if you covered this. What do you mean when you say complete proteins? So for any of you guys who are just joining in, complete proteins means it has the full spectrum of essential amino acids. So you need to have those essential amino acids in order to build muscle mass, specifically the amino acid leucine. So if you guys, I don't want to repeat too much because I know there are a lot of people on the chat here who have already seen this, but if you go back to, I think about the 5-minute mark is when I go into all of the different high leucine protein sources that are complete protein sources. So there's even some plant-based options in there as well. So make sure you check that out. Yeah, so Kate says, yeah, with that 8-hour window, I just can't eat enough to get that higher protein amount. Glad to see I can widen that window and still burn fat. Absolutely. And if you are looking to still maximize the fat burning process when you are having that wider eating window, just remember we need to stick with the meals. So this is something huge that I talk about in the complete intermittent fasting bundle meal plans, is having the meal structure rather than snacking throughout. So if you want to build muscle, getting enough protein is key. But if you also want to continue to burn fat, you want to make sure that you're not snacking even during the eating window and still having meals. So if you guys have not seen the complete intermittent fasting bundle, you do not know what that is, make sure you check it out in the link with the link in the description below. A lot of really great information, especially if you're new and you need some more guidance. Jeanette says Greek yogurt, eggs, and chicken are my favorites. All right. And by the way, if you guys are getting value out of this, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Really helps to spread the word and helps other people to find this information and achieve their goals as well. So really appreciate it if you give the video a thumbs up. But let's jump into the third piece of information that you need to be considering when you are looking to achieve a muscle mass goal, when you're looking to build muscle with intermittent fasting, whether that be the toning or, again, if you want to be Arnold. So this is where you have to consider the type of exercise. And I forget who it was, but someone asked a question on if you can just eat protein and not exercise and build muscle. Unfortunately, that's not the case. You need both. So you do need to be putting on some type of quote stressor or some type of, exercise on the muscle so that it knows that it needs to actually repair it. When you are exercising, you are literally signaling to your body that you need to repair that muscle. And that's where the building happens. You aren't actually building muscle when you're exercising. You're breaking it down. And that breakdown is what's signaling to your body that it needs to come in, repair it, and make it stronger so that you will be more ready and capable for the next time you do that exercise. It's exactly the reason why exercises can be so difficult in the beginning, but then the more you do that same type of exercise, the easier it gets. And it's because you're constantly signaling to your body that you need to repair and get itself and prepare itself for that next exercise next time. Also a good reason why you need to continuously challenge yourself and switch up your workouts. So you do need to make sure you're having the right type of exercise for the goal that you have. So again, if you want to be Arnold, you can't be just doing yoga. Yoga is not going to make you build the level of muscles that Arnold has. On the flip side, if you want to have like not huge amount of muscle mass, but if you want to be more lean, then that's where using something like the lighter weights or yoga will be a great option, or swimming or whatever it might be. Not something that has that huge stressor on the muscle that will cause a huge amount of repair to come in and then build that higher amount of muscle. So you do need to make sure you're matching up the exercise with the type that you have. So I know a lot of women are always concerned on if they start using weights that they will get a lot of muscle mass. This is very rarely the case because, first of all, women tend to have lower levels of testosterone anyway. So you aren't going to get that same response the way that men will for equivalent exercise. But also you need to be lifting very heavy weights to get that level of muscle. So incorporating strength training, even if your goal is to be on more of the toning side or the lean side, is really important to make sure you actually are building some level of muscle, but also to improve insulin sensitivity, which is something we've talked more about in a ton of my other videos, and especially for a fat loss perspective, how important it is to be insulin sensitive. But even if you are looking for more of the toning side of the goal, which is less of a muscle mass building, you still want to be using even lighter weights so that you can still get those muscles contracting, get them more challenged so that you are able to help improve that insulin sensitivity. And this is where, for those of you guys following the complete intermittent fasting bundle, if you've seen within it, I do have the 3-week workout program you guys can use. And you can actually tailor this to where you are in your journey by simply increasing the size of the weights that you're using. So in the beginning, starting off, the first time you're using these exercises, starting off with lighter weights, like for the upper body, using 3 to 5 pounds. And then as you continue on, you can continuously challenge yourself by simply changing the weight of the weight that you're using. So increasing the weight instead of from 3 to 5, going from 5 to 8 or 8 to 12. Just continuously challenging yourself even with the weight of the dumbbell or kettlebell that you're using. And on top of that, it is important to note that when you are increasing the weight, you do want to increase or decrease the reps. But if you are increasing the reps, you'll want to decrease the weight. So that's something we can get into another time on a more exercise specific live stream if that's something you guys want to go into. Again, my master's is in nutrition, human performance, and I'm also a certified personal trainer. So I love this topic. So if you guys ever want me to dive even further into it, I absolutely can. But it is just important to remember you need to tailor the type of exercise to the actual exercise goal that you have. If you want to be Arnold, you have to lift like Arnold. If you want to be more toned and not have as much muscle mass as Arnold, then you need to use the lower weights or use yoga or use light strength training. You need to just match your exercise with the type of goal that you have. So remember that 3-step process we're looking at is first of all, making sure you get enough protein for the level of exercise that you're using. So if you want to scroll back to that, I go into all those details there. And to use the high quality protein source as well. It needs to at least be a complete protein and ideally have higher amount of leucine, especially if you are looking to really build muscle mass. It's so important for you to get enough leucine because that is the amino acid that is most strongly tied to muscle growth, or what's called muscle synthesis when you look it up in research studies. The second thing to consider is your intermittent fasting window. So making sure you're actually able to eat enough protein within that eating window for the goal that you have. So if you are on that side of Arnold and you want to build a lot of muscle and you need a lot more protein, then you probably only want about a 12 to 14 hour fast. Whereas if you are looking for more of that light strength training and you want to be more toned, you could probably get by with about a 16-hour fast. But getting to a shorter fast than that, I haven't seen consistently work for most people purely because protein is so satiating. And that third thing to consider is the type of exercise you're doing. Remember, if you want to be like Arnold, you got to lift like Arnold. If you want to have more of that toned appearance, then you want to have the lighter weight that you're using, higher reps. So you just have to use the right type of exercise for your goals. Now, for your guys' question for today, what's your actual fitness goal? I mean, clearly you guys, there's 222 of you guys on this right now. Clearly you have some type of fitness goal. So let me know in the chat what your goal is. Gold Surfer says, I want big muscle. Great. So we definitely make sure that you're getting enough of that protein. You need to make sure that you're also having that slightly wider fasting period or eating window and a shorter fasting period so that you can actually get in all your protein needs. And then also that you're actually lifting in the way that you need to for those muscle mass. All right, so I'm going to answer a couple questions on here, but again, guys, this is for week 2 of the fall intermittent fasting challenge that's going on right now. So we are in the second week, and if you guys want to join in, you can check out on my website, autumnnutrition.com, link down in the description below as well. Feel free to join in. There are about 2 weeks left, and my wedding is coming up to next Friday, which is nuts, which is what I'm personally preparing for. But make sure you guys join in. It's been really fun. And a lot of the A and peeps are absolutely crushing it. And it's awesome. All right. So Patricia says gain muscle and lose fat. The thing that I would also just make sure that you guys think about when you're thinking about your fitness goal is really what your goal is. So that's a great goal, Patricia, gain muscle and lose fat. But what type of muscle gain are you looking for? Are you looking for, like we mentioned, more of that toning goal where it's just a small amount of muscle gain? Are you looking for moderately increasing your muscle mass, or do you want to be Arnold? So think about what your goal is so that you can then also take this information and apply it to make sure that you're fitting your goals as well. So Andy Cat XD, lean muscle and weight loss. Perfect. So you have that more honed in specific goal of the lean muscle. So you'll want to use more of those strategies we talked about. JD K5HH, toning fitness 180-ish, 185-ish pounds. Perfect. So Susie, toning. Mama Llama and the Littles is asking, is intermittent fasting not good for anyone? Yes. So there are contraindications that you might want to consider for intermittent fasting. Really the only specific ones, first of all, if you're currently recovering from an eating disorder, just generally not advised to be focusing on really any type of aspects of rules during that time. I'm not a specialist in eating disorder recovery. I did have a specialist come on my channel, I think like 2 years ago, to talk a little bit more about that. If you're currently recovering from an eating disorder, intermittent fasting right now is probably not a good thing. If you are currently pregnant or breastfeeding, also an area you want to consider on maybe holding off until you are post-pregnancy and post-breastfeeding. That way you aren't going to accidentally undereat, and make sure that you actually have enough fuel. Those are the main ones on what you need to consider. Of course, if for whatever reason your doctor doesn't want you to, and if you have that discussion with them, then that's between you and your doctor. But from what I've seen, those are the three main areas on why you would not want to use intermittent fasting, at least right now. The big thing to remember with intermittent fasting is that you're not eating less, you're eating less often. And a huge thing to remember is we're talking about time restricted intermittent fasting, not alternate day fasting, not 3-day fasting or extended fasting. The big difference between what we're talking about and those other forms of fasting is you're still getting in all of your daily needs each day. So this is something really big that I'm going to be talking about in a video coming up on these differences. But just remember, you aren't eating less, you're eating less often. And especially for women, this is really important because women are so sensitive to the calorie restrictive state, including any of those diets that are more based on just calorie restrictive, which is pretty much every diet. Intermittent fasting doesn't work from a calorie restrictive protocol. It works with that more hormonal balance of bringing insulin down, allowing growth hormone and testosterone a bit to come up, allowing the body to naturally use fat as fuel while still getting enough for your body's needs during the eating window. Intermittent fasting can be a really great tool for most people, but remember, it's just telling you when to eat. You really need to focus on what you're eating as well. That's something exactly why I created the complete intermittent fasting bundle, because I saw so many people using intermittent fasting wrong and having it not work for their goals. So really, if you are new and if you aren't really quite sure on what you're doing from a food perspective, a lot can go wrong there. So make sure that you are checking out the complete intermittent fasting bundle. Link down in the description below. It's what the A&P peeps are using right now during the fall intermittent fasting challenge. Hundreds of recipes, 8 weeks of meal by meal planning, a lot of really great resources to help you achieve your weight loss and wellness goals while getting enough for your body's needs. All right, so let me see what other questions you have. So the Sweet Shop by Beth said her goal is toning. Brent says losing 25, but also needs to lose more as I was unhealthy before. But what can I do to help joint health? Knees are kind of grinding and showing age. So from an exercise perspective, definitely you'll want to stick with the less impact exercise. So this is where the swimming based exercises can be really great. Getting in the pool, there's even some type of toning classes you can do where you are using resistance type of tools within the pool. So you can even get more of a muscle building workout within the pool. You'll definitely want to meet with where your body's at if you do have some type of injury. And the pool is one that can be a really great place to still get those results without putting too much stress on the body. Oh, so Stella Hill says, I'm approaching 56 years old and had been a lifelong runner. Switched to walking and feel fantastic with way less time out for injuries. Thanks for sharing your knowledge. Congratulations, Stella. That's great. All right. So Michelle is asking, so I reached my goal weight and know I need to tone or gain muscle. Struggling with what exercise to do, and do I stick with intermittent fasting and healthy eating? Yes. So I'm assuming you might have just tuned in right now. I just covered all the 3 steps that you need if you are going to be having some type of muscle gain goal with intermittent fasting. So just to recap those steps, you need enough and the right type of protein. You need to consider your fasting window and your eating window to make sure you're getting enough that protein in. And you need to consider the right type of exercise. If you're brand new to exercise, good place to start are with more of those body weight calisthenic style exercises. So I do have those workouts in the 21-day intermittent fasting program within the complete intermittent fasting bundle. You can always start there and go through 1 round of each and then go increase the rounds as you increase your strength. But that would be a great thing to start. Remember, go back to the beginning of this live stream. I go over a ton of information to consider if your goal is to gain muscle with intermittent fasting. Oh, okay. This is a good question. So Joseph is asking, would you recommend doing Arnold-like weight training before breaking a fast? So this is a great question in general on when you should be exercising, especially if you're looking to achieve some type of muscle gain. So one thing to remember is the hormonal status of the body when you are in that fasted state. So when you're in that fasted state, insulin is going to be lower because you haven't eaten, which means that growth hormone and testosterone are going to be higher, and that's more muscle protective. So this is actually a great time to be incorporating once you have become more metabolically flexible and you're using intermittent fasting for at least a couple weeks. This is a great time to actually be doing any type of exercise, especially if you are looking for more muscle protection. It's just you do need to make sure that after you go to break your fast that you are eating enough of that protein to recover. So, a common myth is that you do need to eat right after your exercise. That's not necessarily the case unless you're doing 2-a-days where you need to be recovering between exercise. The most important factor is that you're just actually getting enough protein in each day. That way you actually have the protein needed to repair from those muscles, repair from those exercises for your muscles. So if you are looking to exercise and you want to optimize the exercise timing, ideally during that fasted state, make sure that you have first adjusted with that 1 to 2 weeks, something we talk about in the complete intermittent fasting bundle as well. Make sure you have allowed for that transition time, but during that fasted state is actually a great time to help protect muscles from further breakdown. And there's a lot of, especially if you guys have looked a little bit more into how to increase muscle mass and probably have seen more of the traditional nutrition approach with that on eating right after and having high carbohydrate to spike insulin. Insulin actually isn't necessarily a growth hormone for the muscles, at least. It just, this is getting maybe a little bit too sciencey. It just stops the body from breaking down the muscle. So it's not necessarily insulin doesn't necessarily cause muscle to grow, but it definitely just stops the muscle from breaking down. So this is where looking at the other muscle or the other hormones is really important, which is the growth hormone and the testosterone, which are naturally high during that fasted state. So maybe that's something we go into a little bit more in detail in another video, but long story short, if you're looking to maximize more of the fat burning while also muscle protection and when to have that exercise, ideally during that fasted state is a great time, but just make sure that you have adjusted and you have had at least that 1 to 2 weeks to get metabolically flexible, and make sure that you are eating the right types and enough of the right types of foods during the eating window. Really important you guys review that. So if you are new, if this is the first time that you are actually considering using intermittent fasting, or the first time you're using it the right way on actually looking at food as well, really make sure that you check out that complete intermittent fasting bundle for the details and recipes and protein calculations, all of that. Literally what I designed it for, to help you achieve your goals. Which if you guys get in value, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Really helps to support the channel. I'm going to answer a couple more questions here. Oh, that's so great. So Anastasia says, thank you for thoroughly explaining intermittent fasting. For years, I restricted during the day, ate during the evening. I switched it around 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. I'm intermittent fasting daily, and the results are amazing. Thank you. You're very welcome. Kelly says, beef stew. I'm assuming this is in response to some of her favorite proteins. Beef stew is my favorite. I use kettle and fire bone broth, which really adds a lot of flavor, and I make enough for leftovers. Leftovers are key. That's a great quote by Arena. So Arena says, we can't help not getting old, but we definitely can do something to not get frail. Yeah. And muscle mass and even that toning aspect, just overall making sure that you're challenging your muscles, even if all you can do right now is walk. Even that is great to make sure that you are getting out and challenging your muscles every day. That helps to keep the body more insulin sensitive. It helps to protect the bones from breaking down. There's a lot of perks of even just going out walking. But today we're talking more about the muscle gaining aspect, depending on where you are in that range. But yeah, any type of exercise that you can get in right now, just do it. Just go outside. Not to quote Nike, but just do it and go outside and just get some type of exercise that works for you right now. All right, so Lizelle says, hi, Autumn, what brand of protein powder do you use or recommend? So I have actually a couple different protein powders that I recommend. I'm always looking at, first of all, making sure, the big thing that I'm looking at is making sure that there aren't heavy metals, or at least been tested for heavy metals and rates at least on the higher end. So this is where, again, the more plant-based protein powders tend to be the most high, or the highest in more of the heavy metals. Typically just because a lot of it is going to be sourced from China, where the pollution is a lot higher. A lot of plant-based protein powders are sourced there. And so unfortunately, a lot of the plant-based proteins are really high in heavy metals. It's not necessarily all of them, but from what I've seen with the latest consumer reports, even the best plant-based protein powder is only 3 stars out of 5 in terms of quality. So that's a big thing, because you don't want to just be accidentally consuming a lot of heavy metals and have some neurotoxic activity happening while you're getting your protein in. That would suck. So ideally limiting the heavy metal exposure. So if you aren't opposed to using an animal-based, egg-based is great. A whey-based option is great. I have a couple different brands that I specifically recommend. You can check out on my website, autumnelnutrition.com. So autumn and then ELLE nutrition.com. In the blog section, just search protein in the blog and it'll pop right up on my top protein powders. But if you are plant-based, or if you are more plant-based, this is where you can help to avoid some of those heavy metals by using something like hemp seeds, or just checking into the sourcing of the plant-based protein that you're getting, making sure that they have actually been tested for heavy metals. Saying that a protein powder is clean means nothing. It really means nothing. So make sure that you're looking beyond just the clean, certified clean label, and that you're actually looking to if they test for heavy metals, because there can even be the animal based that are high in heavy metals as well. And that's something really important to consider. Oh yeah. So Sid says, really excited to try your grain-free pumpkin spice oatmeal today. Oh my gosh, guys, that was a really fun one for me to test out as well. So I have a new recipe on my blog. I think it's the latest blog post that I have, autumnelnutrition.com /blog. And it's my, my grain-free pumpkin spice, like keto oatmeal, but it's, you know, you don't have to be keto to be using it. I'm not keto, but it is lower carbohydrate, higher in those high quality proteins and fats. So you can get more protein in than traditional oatmeal. Traditional oatmeal has no protein, especially from a complete protein source. So I made this recipe as like that fall inspired pumpkin spice, but also where you can get quite a bit of high quality protein, fat, and fiber in there too. Michelle says, cottage cheese is the bomb diggity. I agree. My fiance hates it, but I love it. Oh, thank you, DMC01. Love your videos. So AEK says, hi, Autumn. I've done intermittent fasting with occasional longer fast once weekly. I've never been able to reach ketosis. Any thoughts? I'm getting frustrated. First of all, I would check, you could get your fasted insulin levels tested by your doctor. If you aren't able to see even 0.5 on the ketosis readings, then you probably have higher insulin levels, which means you really need to be looking at the type of foods that you're eating. So this is something I talk about so much, is that intermittent fasting on its own is a great tool, especially from a gut healing perspective, but it doesn't solve everything. What you eat during that eating window really matters. I really can't stress that enough. You can completely ruin those results you're getting from intermittent fasting and counter those by what you eat during that eating window. So make sure, check out the complete intermittent fasting bundle. Make sure you learn how to actually eat during that eating window. And you can also get your fasted insulin levels tested by your doctor to see where you're at as well. Okay, so I'm going to answer a couple more questions here, guys. So make sure you put a couple of question marks before and after, like 3 to 4 question marks. So it's just easier for me to find the questions. Camille, that's a great question. She said, what would be an acceptable amount of heavy metal and protein powder? Mine is 1 part per million or less. In the top 4, is that good? I mean, ideally none. You know, that's a good question. I'll go a little bit more into that in another video. I mean, again, ideally just, you don't want any heavy metals. The less you can have, the better. I would also take a look at how much actually per serving, like, is that per serving that with what they're saying? You know, there's a lot of tricky ways to market various protein powders, but I have not seen, and again, I could have missed the latest consumer reports. I've not seen a plant-based protein powder that is rated higher than 3 out of 5 stars for heavy metals. So I'll just take a little bit more of a deep dive into that question, Camille. That's a really good question. All right. Oops. Oh, awesome. Roxy said, just made my first batch of homemade Greek yogurt. Yeah, I have a homemade Greek yogurt recipe on my YouTube channel, also on my blog. It's so easy, guys. It's not hard at all. That sounds really complex, but it's actually a great way to make high quality homemade Greek yogurt at home with like zero active time. It does take a little time to actually ferment, like over the nighttime, but it's super easy. Highly recommend you check it out. Just type Autumn Bates Greek yogurt in YouTube. It'll pop right up. All right, so like 1 or 2 more questions. Sue J is asking, how much creamer can I have during a fast in my coffee? So depends on what we're talking on, the type of creamer. I actually just did a video on the top 10 best and worst types of coffee creamers for intermittent fasting. So some creamers will break a fast, just plain short and simple, because they contain sugar. So you need to make sure you're checking the type. I would highly recommend you check out that video I just did. I also converted it into a blog post on my website, autumnlnutrition.com. If you guys want to check that out, just want to read it instead. So that's definitely something you need to check first, is the type of coffee creamer you're using. Other than that, if you're using, like, let's say heavy whipping cream or even half and half, then about 1 tablespoon is a good amount to make sure you don't break a fast. There's not really an exact amount of grams of carbs and protein that for each person that will be the same, that will spike insulin. So a good rule of thumb that I like to stick to is making sure you aren't getting a combined total 1 gram of protein and carbohydrates during the fast. That way you just know you're not risking breaking the fast and elevating the insulin level. So with half and half and heavy cream, it's about 1 tablespoon or less that will work during that fasting period. But I do have, like I mentioned, I have that whole video. Highly recommend that you check it out, because I go into a lot of the most common and popular types of coffee creamers and how you can use those during intermittent fasting. Arkita says, is whey protein safe? Depends on the protein powder, and depends on what you're asking about for safe. Like, is it safe in terms of heavy metals? Is it safe in terms of sugar? And for weight loss goals, just depends. So there are actually, just whey protein in general has been studied to have a ton of really great health benefits even. So there's a couple of really great studies that I want to go over with you guys on whey protein powder specifically, that they found when they use whey protein with athletes can actually help to improve immune system. So whey protein generally, is it safe? Yes, but it can get sketchy depending on what's added in. So in terms of heavy metals and sugar, those are the main ones that you want to look out for. So just make sure you're looking for the lowest possible sugar option, and also just try and get those heavy metals out of the equation. And by the way, guys, if you are just joining in, this is the live stream for the 2nd week of the Fall Intermittent Fasting Challenge. It's going to be a 3-week long challenge. And if you guys want to join in, you can just check out the link that's unfortunately not there right now because of the live stream issues. But go onto my website, autumnnutrition.com, go onto the blog, and that's where all the details are. Once this live is ended, I'll put the details for how you can join in on the Fall Intermittent Fasting Challenge. Literally thousands of people around the world are joined in, and it's an amazing experience. So many supportive people. So if you want to take this fall to feel great again, make sure you check out on my website how you can join in. All right. And I'm using this challenge to help me feel great on my wedding day, which is next Friday, which is mind blowing to me. Can't believe it's finally here. So Brent said, what kind of foods do you recommend for a budget other than eggs? I'm kind of egged out. It's a good question. I did do a video on tips on how you can, I forget the title of it, but it was like how to grocery shop on a budget, something like that. It came out like 2 or 3 months ago. Make sure you check that out, because I have a lot of really great tips on how you can do that, the types of proteins you can use, and just general good shopping tips on how to make sure you don't break the budget, or break the bank rather, when you are going grocery shopping. So I have a video on that. Make sure you check it out. Just type Autumn Bates budget. That might come up on YouTube. Okay. Michelle says, been doing intermittent fasting for a few months and not seeing any weight loss. Address my eating and still nothing. Why could this be? First of all, you still might be, still probably need to address your food further if you're using intermittent fasting and not seeing weight loss. Also depends on how close you are to your weight loss goal. If you have, in that last 5 to 10 pounds, there's a lot of just small details that come into play. Like I've shared a video with Katie in the past where even stevia can be an issue for some people for that last 5 to 10 pounds. If you have more than that on what you're looking to achieve for a weight loss goal, then you likely are eating beyond your personal carbohydrate tolerance. So I do have a video, a live stream on where I go into carbohydrate sensitivity. You'll definitely want to check that out. You'll also want to check out in the complete intermittent fasting bundle, I have an advanced weight loss strategies protocol. Really useful if you are finding that you aren't achieving a weight loss goal with intermittent fasting. So again, make sure you check out the link in the description below as well. Okay. Oh, thank you. Tech author. Congratulations on your upcoming nuptials. Hope all goes well. All best wishes. Thank you. Okay. So Juliana says, when would you eat your homemade bread on your blog? So I'm assuming you mean the flax bread. And the flax bread is only made out of eggs. I think it has baking powder or baking soda and flax seeds, and that's pretty much it. So if you look at what's in there, you have high quality fat, high quality fiber, high quality protein. You can make a breakfast or breakfast sandwich out of that if you want to. So you can pretty much have that any time of day because it does have high quality fat, protein, and fiber. The one thing that we usually do look at is the carbohydrates and when to optimize for that. But since the flax seeds and the eggs don't contain any of that, you don't need to be concerned about when you're having the flax bread. All right, guys. Okay, so I see a couple more questions. I'll go over one more and let me see a good one to end on. I want to do one specific to exercise. There's some great questions like on when the age to fast and when you shouldn't be fasting. I have some videos on that. Maybe I'll do a live stream on that in the future because that's a really good question. And on how you can leverage intermittent fasting and get rid of belly fat. I have a whole video on that just came out a few weeks ago. So make sure you check that out. I'm going to try and find one that's more specific to exercise. Okay, Mrs. She's asking, how does your body not, or he, how does your body not use muscle as energy during intermittent fasting? Same question for working out. So it all comes down to first of all, your body doesn't actually use protein for energy when you're exercising. It's going to be using either fat or carbohydrates. Those are our energy sources. So you're not actually using muscle for energy when you are exercising. But also on top of that, when you're fasting, you have elevated levels of growth hormone and elevated levels of testosterone, both of which help to hinder muscle breakdown while turning on further fat burning. And something pretty cool is that the longer you're using intermittent fasting, especially when you're using the types of meal strategies we talk about in the complete intermittent fasting bundle, the better your body gets at using fat as fuel specifically during exercise. So there's kind of like this cycle of how your body uses energy when you're exercising and using intermittent fasting. In the beginning, especially when you're used to eating often, it's using carbohydrates, which is a fast burning energy source. It's something that's not reliable, something where you can get those energy crashes and cause the insulin to spike when you go to eat more of it. All those things that we don't want. Whereas when you first start using intermittent fasting, your muscles first start using ketones when you are in that fasted state. But then the longer and longer you use intermittent fasting, even after a couple of weeks, the muscles specifically get really good at using fat, which ketones are essentially a byproduct of fat breakdown. So the muscles actually get better at specifically pulling fat and using that as an energy source, even at higher intensity levels. So typically fat would be best used as an energy source. Hair in my eye. Would be best used as an energy source at lower intensity exercises. But what a lot of researchers in the field of exercise and fitness are finding is that the longer you're using the more fat burning fuel sources and intermittent fasting, the better your body gets at burning fat at higher intensities. So even at higher intensities, like with weightlifting, the body is using more fat as fuel. And since during that fasted state, the growth hormone and the testosterone that's elevated is protecting the muscles from breaking down, you're actually in that perfect state of not breaking down muscle to that extreme amount while also using more fat as fuel. So that's where the body is continuously getting better and better at using fat as fuel the longer that you use intermittent fasting, if you're using it the right way. So I really can't stress enough, what you eat during your eating window really matters. So not just from a protein aspect, but making sure you get enough of the high quality fats, strategically using those carbohydrates, all of the information that we cover in the complete intermittent fasting bundle. Make sure if you aren't seeing results that you are checking that out. This is where I see a lot of people forget this area, which is what you're eating and how you're eating during your eating window. And that can really make it so you aren't going to see results and you're not going to feel as great when you're using intermittent fasting. So make sure you check that out. You can check it out down in the description below for those step-by-step details from what to eat during that eating window to make sure you're actually seeing results. Okay, guys. So this is week 2 of the fall intermittent fasting challenge. I'm so sorry about the fact that unfortunately the previous live stream was not working from the tech perspective. I had a whole great slideshow for you guys. I'm going to save it for another time, maybe the next challenge, to go more into detail on everything covered today with the great visuals and studies to show you. But thank you guys for tuning in. Again, if you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Really helps to spread the word, helps make it so other people can gain access to this information to achieve their weight loss and their wellness goals and feel good again. That's my mission, to make sure that every single one of you can eat foods that you love or eat meals that you love and feel great in the process. So make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Really helps support the channel. And if you are brand new to intermittent fasting, make sure you check out that complete intermittent fasting bundle for those step-by-step details on how to actually eat during the eating window so you can maximize your results and actually feel good with intermittent fasting. All right, guys, and next week is the 3rd week of the fall intermittent fasting challenge. So I'll have another live stream on that Monday, and then I have my wedding that week. So I'll be a little out, won't be on social media much on Friday and Saturday of the wedding next week, but I will be having the live stream on Monday. So make sure you guys tune in, same time as usual, 9 a.m. PST. Hopefully everything will be figured out with the live streams. I have the awesome visuals for you guys again, but thank you so much for tuning in. Again, make sure you give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys next week. All right, Kate, can't talk. I need water. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next week.